the Worcester branch of the Wayne County Public Library, and today I am here to review a book I just finished and really enjoyed, and that is Sisters in Arms by Kaia Alderson. So this book was released in August of 2021. It's a historical fiction novel, and it follows members of the 688's battalion during World War II. And I just thought it was really interesting. So our main characters, who I'm assuming are supposed to be our two here on the front, are Grace Steele and Eliza Jones. They both come from New York City, but they have pretty different backgrounds. Grace has been training more or less her whole life to be a concert pianist. And as the novel starts, she's bombing her Juilliard audition. So you know she's good if she's auditioning for Juilliard. Now, she can't concentrate very well on her performance. And that is because literally just the day before, her family received a telegram letting them know that her brother Tony had been killed in battle in the Philippines. So, you know, that's definitely going to affect you emotionally. So after her disastrous audition and just everything kind of going through her mind, she kind of ends up just wandering around, and she wanders into the recruiting office for the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. You might have heard it called the WWII, and specifically for officer training. Now, Eliza is our other main character. She's the only child of a wealthy newspaper owner. Both her parents work for the newspaper, but her dad definitely takes lead. And her dream is to be what she sees as a real reporter. She really wants to get that sports column, and she loves baseball. But her father is very traditional, and he doesn't think that women should be in those kind of roles. And so he has stuck Eliza with like these puff pieces and having to do the society news. And she's not a big fan of having to dress up and go to these fancy functions. And one day, kind of out of nowhere, she receives this letter in the mail at the newspaper office suggesting that she sign up for the WWII officer training. She ignores it and works on a new piece, a new article. Some spies have just been caught, some German spies. It's relatively new news, and she thinks that if she can get this article done and to her dad, the editor, in time, that they'll be one of the first New York newspapers to drop this information. And she thinks this may even be her best work yet. And so she turns it in with all her hopes of becoming her, quote, real journalist. And you know what happens? Her dad puts his name on it when he publishes it right there on the front page. So she was right. It was a good article, but he doesn't give her the credit that she clearly deserves. So she's kind of sick and tired of not being taken seriously. And she kind of comes across that letter again, and she goes, okay, you know, and so she ends up at the WWII offices in New York, and that's where Grace and Eliza meet. So despite all the prejudices that both Grace and Eliza encounter, they are accepted into the officer training program. There's actually only 40 spots nationwide for African Americans for officer level positions. So good for them. They met all of the qualifications. And so not only are they going to be among the first class of female officers the U.S. Army has ever seen, but they're also the first Black women to be allowed to serve. So the rest of the novel kind of follows Eliza and Grace as they ship off first to Iowa for training. And then, of course, they move on to Europe. And for two Northern women learning to navigate their way through a segregated army, that might even be tougher than boot camp. They both know there is no room for error. They have to be more perfect than, some of these more prejudiced army officials are expecting from them. So eventually they end up in Scotland, their battalion, which is, like I said, is the 6 888s. And they are given what sounds like an impossible task at first. And so they're put up in an old boarding school in Scotland. It's very drafty. And 2 days after their arrival, they're told you need to do a full parade for a general, which they all have sea legs. They're all really tired from their voyage and the time change. And then as soon as the general leaves, they need to get started on this task of sorting through an estimated 17 million pieces of mail for U.S. troops that are stationed in Europe. And so they officially become the 6 888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. It's a mouthful. So these women are actually based on kind of an amalgamation of other people, because the 6 888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was a real group. And so it is based on real events. And you can actually find photos of, I printed a couple, you can find photos from that time and of those groups. This is Charity Adams. She had the highest level within the 6 888s. I can't remember her, like if she obviously higher than a captain, but she, so she was a real person, and she is a character in the book, and she is totally cool. So they pretty much did it. That's not giving anything away because it's based on true stories. Having to sort through all of this mail. And can I just say that as a librarian who previously worked in an archive, the idea of like having to sort and organize so much paper, like to me, it sounded fun, especially the mystery ones, because they did have quite a few letters that would just be addressed to Robert, U.S. Army. Well, there's a lot of Roberts out there in the Army, especially in like 1944. So, but I'm weird. I recognize that. I'm probably the only person who would have been like, ooh. Anyway, it's a really interesting novel. I'm not going to get into, any spoilers, but, just know that these women are so heartwarming but fierce, and Sisters in Arms is a novel brimming with camaraderie, but also fire, and starring women that you would love to make your friends. And so, definitely check this out. It is available in print, and it is also available as an audiobook. So anyway, thank you for joining me for my book review.